So excited to be here with you guys this morning. I sent out an email earlier to asking you to fill out your questionnaire ahead of time. I just put the link in the chat as well. If you guys did not have a chance to fill that out, go ahead and fill that out. And then we will go ahead and get started. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. And I am so excited to be here with you and to have this opportunity. It is kind of a cool thing with having the restrictions of COVID that we can still connect in this way and be able to enjoy each other. So this program was titled Refresh, Create New Strength and Energy for 2021. So when I was thinking a little bit about what I wanted to create and how I wanted to, support and educate coming into this new year, I felt like for myself and with a lot of patients that have came in, that it's really been a unique year for everyone, and that people have had lots of different experiences, and this past year has impacted everyone in different ways. And so I know a lot of people were thrilled to have 2021 arrive, and just creating an opportunity to refresh and to kind of revive and come from a greater place of strength and energy within each of us. So that being said, for those of you that do not know me, I am Roxanne Armstrong, the nutritionist over at Now Chiro. A little bit about me, I have my certification in applied clinical nutrition. Basically, all that means is that more than just knowing about nutrition, my passion is really helping individuals apply it in their day-to-day lives. I've had extensive experience in mentoring and training healthcare practitioners as well as training staff. So before I came back into clinic, actually my job was to train healthcare practitioners on how to use standard process and how to use functional nutrition in their lives. My experience, I'm versed in analyzing different functional test results. One of the things we do in office is the heart sound recorder, where we look at the 4 valves of the heart. I love to look at blood work analysis. We do it a little bit differently. So medically there's a range, and then there's a functional range where we can see where things are strained or struggling. Also, we have muscle testing. I usually don't pull that out unless a patient's a little more familiar with me, so I don't make them nervous. But really my passion more than anything is what we're doing right now, is to empower and teach individuals how to live healthier and happier lives through education, training, and workshops. So whether you listen to what I have to say or not, or it vibes with you, it's my passion to let you know that there's options and different perspectives and that you can be empowered in that way. So what we'll be discovering and covering in this class is assessing your toxic burden. So what personally is going on in your own health, review of what toxins are, practical lifestyle changes will be the majority of it, ways that you can incorporate and get back on track in this new year, and then powerful purification options we will touch on, and then setting up for success. So assessing your toxic burden, I would love if you were open and willing for you guys to chat in and share what you did or how you felt about filling out your toxicity questionnaire and what score you received on that. So if you could do that, I'm gonna admit this person in. I would love to get your feedback on this. Give you guys an opportunity to chat in if anyone wants to share what their totals were. Okay, Diane, she's doing good. She did a total score of 33. And Diane is been working hard on a lot of her health stuff, so that makes me excited to hear that. Mark got a 58, awesome. So really what we're looking at here is just, there's no judgment at all in your toxicity questionnaire. It's more about bringing awareness to where your body is at that time and what's going on. So when we're looking at this, any area that has 6 points total in a single category, we want to look at that a little more deeply. The other thing that we're looking at here is a grand total of 40 or more is indicative of a need for purification. And so when we're looking at these toxins and how they're impacting our body, that's something that we want to be aware of. Now, the ones that I see most commonly are showing up on a regular basis is going to be areas like digestion, emotions, joints and muscle pain, energy and activity, and really just taking a moment to pause and think about some of these things, because a lot of times we look at these areas as individual issues and we try to chase these symptoms around, where what's really happening is there's a broad burden of toxicity that's happening across the body, and we don't always recognize things like emotions or digestive issues or joint and muscle pain or our energy level all correlating together because of this toxic burden that's on the system. And so the main thing I really want to bring perspective to right now is that awareness that when there's things showing up in multiple areas of your body, that it really can be coming just down to that toxic burden that is there. And so again, we said that 6 points in any category is something we want to be aware of. Multiple sections of greater than 6 points is a clear indication of a toxic burden. So anytime a patient comes in and they have multiple areas that they're showing little symptoms or things going on, almost immediately my light bulb goes off around toxicity. And then if we have a grand total of 40 or more, that's going to be an indication of a need for purification. But there is one caveat to this, that if we do have over 100 on our toxicity questionnaire, which doesn't happen super frequently, but it absolutely can. I've had several patients that have had that. Then we want to look at some pre-work before going into any sort of purification process. So as I start this discussion, one of the top things that I get is what is a toxin? So I'll have this conversation, I'll open it up with a patient and they're like, well, where am I getting all these toxins from? And so when we start looking at what a toxin is, I think the important thing is recognizing that really any substance that damages or burdens the body can be toxic. And so sometimes we think that we're doing really good, we have a great lifestyle. This always is an awareness factor for me, because I do a purification program every year to see what arises. And so even water or something like oxygen can be toxic to the body if it's overburdened or in too high of a substance. And so we're really looking at what things we're engaging with on a day-to-day basis and how those things are impacting us. We also had a comment right in that her score was pre-pregnancy, but that's kind of an interesting time of seeing how much your body shifts and where things are at and what things show up during pregnancy as well. And so we notice a lot of these things as we go through these transitions, which is powerful. And over this past year, we've definitely experienced a lot of transitions. So one of the top areas that we're going to look for toxins that we're all coming in contact in is with our food. I love this visual because it just puts in perspective that in America, we're up against some pretty harsh situations and circumstances. Here we see 8 foods banned in other countries. So not only are we being exposed to a lot of different chemicals and different preservatives and things like that, but we're actually exposed to things that in other countries they don't even allow, and here we're eating and drinking on a regular basis. So that's definitely going to have an impact on how our body functions. Toxins in our personal care products. This can be a big one where we're getting things like aluminum and parabens, synthetic fragrances. I can't even pronounce some of these things that are going to be in there. Formaldehyde, I mean, that's what they're putting to embalm bodies. Like, those aren't things you want in your body, and they're in our makeups and in our skincare products and all of those sorts of things. And so recognizing that anything you're putting onto your skin, anything that's coming into your system is going to get into your blood and be processed by your body within moments, within seconds, and sometimes minutes, but it definitely starts to overburden. So again, going back to like the water and oxygen idea, that if there's anything you're using on a daily basis, that's going to build up a little bit of a toxic burden there. Some of our other classes, we've talked about how to make some of these things your own, and it's a process starting to clean up some of these areas. Another area is just going to be the toxins inside our homes, the things that we're cleaning with and the things we're coming in contact with. This became a lot more, what's the word? Like I took a lot more notice to this when I'd read a study that was talking about how they were finding fire retardant in women's breast milk just from the fire retardant that was being sprayed on couches and on carpets and things like that, that it was now showing through in mother's breast milk. That it really brought that awareness to me of, wow, things that we don't even see, we're not even realizing we're coming in contact with, are having a pretty immense effect on our health and what it's having to filter on a day-to-day basis. Toxins in the air we breathe. This is something that we combat here in Utah that isn't always going to be combated other places. So when we look at this, I mean, that can't be good. We see on a clear day versus a cloudy day how much of an impact that's having on our lungs. This is another area that also really hit home to me that might be something worth taking a step back and just processing and thinking about. So we live a pretty healthy lifestyle in my household, and all of my children were experiencing some digestive issues and just some health concerns. And I'd done everything that I could think of with the knowledge that I have, and just still wasn't able to figure out what was going on. And so about a month ago, I took them in to see one of the naturopaths that I go to when I can't figure out what's going on. And through a series of muscle testing and tests and things that we were doing, we started to figure out that actually what was happening was that our whole family had developed an arsenic burden, and that we had developed a level of arsenic poisoning. And so he was like, man, where are you guys getting arsenic from? And I was like, I have no idea. So I went home and started to research heavily where we would be picking up arsenic. And it turns out, not too far into researching, that some of the first culprits of arsenic poisoning is copper mining. And I come up to Now Cairo, but I live in West Jordan, and we are right up against the mountain of the Bingham copper mine. And so all of a sudden, it was like my whole world got flipped upside down as I realized that where we had moved into 2 years ago was potentially definitely making my whole family sick from some of the environmental toxins that were associated with it. And up until that point, I've thought a lot about this, that I'd never really taken a lot of stock in where I'd purchased the house or what environmentally had gone on in that area, until now having this experience, and how often we can be coming in contact with toxins that are affecting our health that we don't even know are doing that, whether it's living by a processing plant, living by a mine, our air quality, our water quality, all of those things could have a pretty substantial impact, the occupation that we're in. So really taking some observation on some of those things. So then again, when we look at the impact toxins have on our body, we obviously saw the questionnaire, but weight gain and hormone imbalance is going to be a big one. One of the major functions of fat is to store toxins in order to protect your organs. So when you have the people that are either hitting a plateau with their weight, or they lose weight and then it bounces back quickly, it's because those toxins are still in the system and they're not able to get them effectively out to the point that the body's okay letting that fat dissolve. So I'll see this a lot with patients with keto specifically, because they'll lose weight really quickly, but then as soon as they go off that diet, it'll come back very quickly because they've dumped that toxic burden and that toxic load into the system. And so then as soon as they stop that, the body's like, man, we've got to protect these organs again. And a lot of times that weight comes back on. Usually a big indication of that is especially going to be weight around the stomach and midsection of the body. And then hormone imbalance. Anytime that we have a toxic burden, one of the tricky things about hormones is that they're so interconnected. And so many organs impact other organs. And it's a process of getting those all able to come back online. And toxins play a huge part in that, especially because your liver is one of your biggest initiators for keeping your hormones balanced. So if your liver begins to get bogged down, then we see the thyroid start to struggle, the adrenals start to struggle, and all of those hormones start to become imbalanced. Misalignment correlations. This one's a big one that I love to bring awareness to, especially working in the chiropractic clinic, is that every area of your spine is associated with something internally. So if we look at, the lower neck, that's going to impact the thyroids. If we look down at the low back, we're going to have a small intestine correlation. And so this isn't always true when we have an acute misalignment come out of place. So if you've had an injury or you woke up one morning and your back was out of whack and you needed to get adjusted, that's going to be a little different. But anytime you have a chronic pain or a chronic misalignment that's continuing to appear, rear up, or you get adjusted and within a few days that's came back out in that same place, that's usually when you definitely want to look at what's going on internally and how the body's being impacted. Because one of the mechanisms that your body uses is it will actually pull vertebrae out of place in order to signal that something deeper is going on. And so I love working with patients that have had chronic pain, because a lot of times we get this image or this perception or idea that it's because our body's breaking down or our joints aren't working right, or almost this idea that we can't really resolve it, where the truth is usually it's because there's something deeper going on that we need to address. And there's so many things that we can do through supplementation and diet and nutrition to be able to adjust that. So any of those aches and pains, definitely something we want to look at with toxins. Sleep disruption, difficulty falling or staying asleep, absolutely can be toxin related. Frequently waking around the same time during sleep. That's kind of an interesting thing. There's what's called the Chinese clock, or Oriental medicine, where they have a clock that they refer to where different organs mean different things. So one that I see a lot in clinic is if someone's waking between the hours of 1 and 3, that's the liver indicator. And so that's usually a good clue, and if that's consistently happening, that the liver's bogged down. But it has that for all systems in the body. And so those are some things that we can look at for trying to identify where those breakdowns are taking place. So when we look at all those things that have impacted it, really the most exciting thing about coming together today and learning about these things is what are those practical lifestyle changes that we can do to be able to start to combat some of those toxins we're coming in contact with. Big thing here is really doing our best to keep it simple. I know that there are so many thoughts, ideas, blogs, Facebook posts, Instagram posts. I mean, no matter where you look, you're getting a different message about what's healthy for your diet, what you should be doing, how you can be healthy, what isn't healthy. A lot of it's controversial, and it's so hard to know what you're out to take. So the biggest thing I was hoping to present today is a way to help you in starting off on a good foot this year, but keeping it as simple as possible. So the 5 things that we could really look at to keep it simple is 1, increasing your vegetables. 2, increase your healthy fats and proteins. 3, increase your water intake. 4, decrease your sugars, which is going to mean sodas, sweet treats, breads, pastas, things like that. And 5, decrease your processed foods. Biggest thing, if you can't read it, not a good idea to eat it. Really seriously, we're going to go into these a little bit more deeply, but if you could just make an effort to do these 5 things, you're going to be in a really excellent space and moving forward in your health. So we look at increasing your vegetable intake. Cooking and prepping large amounts at a time can be something that's really helpful. So one of the things that we do in our house is if I come home, I usually try to have a day that I prep. And I will cut up a bunch of broccoli, cut up a bunch of zucchini, might cut up a bunch of green beans, whatever it is, that vegetable that you're liking, and I will either lightly steam or saute or bake. I mean, however you want to prepare them, but I'll prepare a large amount that day of the week. So that then when I go to make something else, a lot of times I like to steam mine or blanch them just so they kind of are retained, those vegetables, they're ready to go. So that then when I go to make meals throughout the week, I can just grab some of whatever I've already prepared and add it to what I want to make then, and it's ready to go. So that can be something that can definitely make it easier to get vegetables in and help with creating meals and things. It becomes overwhelming, even for me, when I've had a busy day or a stressful day or some emotions have arisen that day, to want to figure out how to make something from scratch, which is what you're looking at more when you're eating true whole foods. But when you can just go in and say, hey, I already have these veggies cooked, I just have to warm them up, it's much easier to resort back to healthier foods. Experiment. If you want some ideas, absolutely, come talk to me. But sometimes we get almost this anxiety or this anxiousness. I've been there. There's times I still go there with certain things about trying it, where we just get nervous to try new things, or we have this idea that we don't like Brussels sprouts or we don't like beets. And so we've decided that, 5, 10, 15 years ago, and we've never experimented to try if maybe it was the way it was prepared. Maybe if there's a new way of eating it, you'd like it more, and looking at some of those things. Beets has been a fun one for me. We found a yummy, fun way to eat beets at our house, and every single time I make them, my kids ask for seconds. I have never seen an adult or a child ask for seconds, and it stokes me out of my mind every time my kids ask for more beets. So it's just figuring out some of those ways to get into a recipe or a way of cooking those vegetables that is yummy in a way that you enjoy. And then we've talked about this in many other seminars, webinars, that incorporating green smoothies. This one's a big one for me because it's very easy, it's pretty quick, doesn't take a ton of time, but can be a powerhouse for integrating nutrition. So we'll touch on that again. When we look at green smoothies, this is a great way to add in any extras. You can add in, you can get your oils in, you can get in an additional supplement powder, greens powder. I mean, the options are endless of what you can create. You can create just like a monster of nutrition starting the day out with your smoothies. Frozen foods, you can adjust it. You can create a variety of different fruit blends and different ways of making flavors, so it can be fun. Again, another way for exploring. But the big thing that I wanted to touch on today is the greens component. The patients that I have seen that have actually done this, every single time come back and tell me what a big impact this has made on the way that they're feeling, because it's a powerhouse for nutrition. So what you do with the greens is you want to get either the large bag or the large box of, usually it's called smoothie greens. And it's what you're looking for ideally is for it to have kale, spinach, and chard, which are gonna be 3 of your really deep greens. And then you're gonna take as much of those greens as you can at once and either put them, I do it in an Instapot, just because it's super easy. But you could use a pot on the stove as well. But you're gonna take as many greens as you can fit, you're gonna put them in there and begin to steam them by putting a little water in the bottom of the pan or the Instapot, whatever you're using. And then you'll just wait for those greens to lightly wilt. You don't want to overly cook them, because we're not trying to cook them. We're just kind of more looking for a wilting component of that. And then as soon as it wilts, you're going to move all of that into your blender along with the water. And so what will happen is, I get these huge bags at Costco. The whole thing I have to smash to get into my Instapot, so it's a lot of greens. And then by the time I'm done lightly steaming them and they've wilted and I pour it in there, it fills up maybe half of my blender. So this condenses down drastically. And then when you blend it, it'll condense even more. So then you blend it up, you get this really concentrated green sludge that just is awesome. And then what you'll do is you'll take that green mixture and you will go ahead and put it in ice cube trays, freeze it, and then you have these green cubes to use in your smoothies. So the really cool thing about this is that you not only have these green cubes, but you're getting way more concentration in than you would have otherwise. And so what I found is that about one handful of greens raw would be about the equivalent of one of these cubes. So when I make a smoothie for my whole family, I've been putting in 8 of these cubes. So all of us are getting like this solid serving of greens right first thing in the morning. And you're getting it when it's fresh, because what used to happen to me is I'd put these greens in my smoothie, but by the time I got to the end of the bag or the end of the end of the box, that they'd be getting mushy and smelling weird. And doing it this way, you're concentrating all of that nutrition, you're getting it in a super condensed form. And the other plus is that when you freeze it, it almost freezes that flavor, so you don't get such a strong green taste. So another way that makes it really feasible to be able to incorporate that. So we just also got, as we're on this line, a chat in that said, I'd like to talk about juicing when you have a moment, as they just purchased a juicer, a resource for juicing recipes. So juicing can be super, super beneficial, but there's going to be pros and cons to this. Juicing fruit is not always a great idea because it gets a really high concentration of sugars and you're losing all of your fibers. And so one of the things that is ideal about blending or having a whole food is that you get a nice ratio of those fibers and nutrients and everything that can slow down how fast your body burns off those sugars and is also going to help digestively and all of those components. But the pros to doing juicing, kind of similar to how we just concentrated down our greens, is that you can medicinally concentrate a lot of things. So one of the big fads that's gone on has been the celery juicing. And with celery juicing, side note, if you ever try celery juicing, you absolutely want to make sure that it is organic, because celery is one of your higher toxic burden vegetables. So if you try celery juicing with regular celery, you're like almost going to guarantee to throw yourself into a toxic spin out. So your pros will not outweigh the cons in that case. But if we were to get some organic celery and juice that, it would be really, really hard to do that blending it, where juicing it, you can get a ton of celery juiced into a cup's worth that you could get some really serious medicinal properties from. So juicing can be very powerful in creating some of those medicinal properties if used correctly, but we definitely want to be careful about not doing too many sugary fruits, because that's going to be harder on the system. That's when we definitely would want to veer towards blending. And ideally, you could kind of combine the two, maybe juicing some of those vegetables to get the medicinal properties, but then adding that back in to your smoothie to get some of those fibers and full amounts of the nutrition. So great questions. Also typed in that celery tastes nasty. It is a strong bitter taste when it's straight juiced like that. I've found that myself as well. And then the other thing on here is enhancements. You can use coconut milk. One thing I have found that has been kind of a game changer in enjoying our smoothies is that instead of using the boxed coconut milk, we'll use the canned coconut milk. You can get it on Thrive Market, where it has absolutely nothing but water and coconut, but a lot of times I'll get the one at Costco that does have a little bit of guar gum in it, which is not ideal, but it still is pretty clean. It only has those 3 ingredients, and that makes it really, really creamy. That canned coconut milk definitely, for whatever reason, is much more creamy. I think it has less water in it, to be honest with you, but it's much, much more creamy, higher fat content, which is going to give you more energy, burn fat, help your brain than the boxed coconut milk will. Okay, next, looking at increasing our healthy fats and proteins. So I try to pound this point home regularly. Hopefully, if you've been on one of my webinars before, you're clear on this point at this level. But fats, healthy fats are very important, super good for you. We've had a lot of misinformation over the last couple decades that fats are something you need to be nervous about. That is not true. If they're healthy, clean fats, we want those in our body. Every single cell in your body needs fat to thrive. So we definitely want to have those fats. But the important part is using them properly. So one of the areas where we start running into problems is if we use a lower heated oil for high heated cooking. So any of our seed oils specifically, like your sunflower and trying to think of some other ones that are used a lot, those ones are not meant to be heated high. And so they're going to be your best oils for salad dressings, things that you're not cooking with. But when we get up into cooking, you definitely want to look more towards your avocado oil, coconut oil. Olive oil has some controversy around it. You'll find whole books about how it's totally fine and other books how you shouldn't heat it up so much. So it's put in the middle category. Peanut oil, sesame oil, those are all going to be good oils. What we're concerned about here is your oil's breaking point. So basically, lower heat oils have multiple breaking points. So as they get hot, they'll break apart. And as soon as their structure, their chemical structure breaks apart, it becomes a toxin and becomes rancid in the body. So that's why it's a concern. These other oils like coconut oil, even butter, are all oils that can handle that heat. They don't break their molecular bond or structure, and so they don't go rancid in the body, making them very healthy and supportive for your health. So adding coconut oils to your shakes, using the coconut cream in your shakes, adding them to tea. One of the big fads that came around in this last 10 years was the bulletproof coffee. You could use that with tea if you don't drink caffeinated beverages. An awesome way to start the day. We've been doing it with, we've introduced the cacao. We're trying that out, which is kind of like an unprocessed, unsweetened cocoa, using that with the MCT oil and the butter. You blend it up, and that's a great way to get in some nutrition. A lot of times if people are doing an intermittent fasting or diet, they'll use that in the morning to kind of help with the fat burning, but also give them some energy and nutrition. Sauteing veggies in butter or olive oil, I mean, those are all great ways. Adding those fats onto your vegetables, onto anything you're eating, super beneficial. One of the things that I see a lot in clinic is people that either have gallbladder issues or have had their gallbladders out. And what no one seems to be told about that part is that your brain is about 70% fat. And so when our gallbladder is not functioning properly, which is why we look at clearing things out, or we don't have our gallbladder, we've now lost our mechanism to feed our brain. And all of these fats are that nutrition that our brain needs. So if we want healthy, sharp, strong, awesome brains that are able to function really well, we want to increase our fats and make sure our gallbladders are functioning properly. If for any reason anyone on here doesn't have a gallbladder, definitely circle back with me on that, and we'll talk about how to support you with that. Now, when we look at the fats we want to avoid, it's definitely avoiding vegetable and hydrogenated oils. So we do not like canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, or anything that says actually hydrogenated oils. Those are going to be very unhelpful for the body. Then we look at the importance of clean protein. So when we look at protein, honestly, if there was one area that I would say this is the area it would be well worth your while, time and energy to budget and spend a little more money in, this would be it. Because conventional meats and proteins are one of the most significant food culprits for inflammation and toxic burden in the body. The reason for that is that if you're starting to eat a healthier diet, you're starting to cut out some of those inflammatory grains, wheats and corns and soy and things like that. These animals that are conventional meats are eating all of that. So they're taking in all that inflammation that maybe you're making an effort to cut out. Then because they're taking in all of that inflammation, they're also getting sick. So then they're having to regularly use antibiotics on them. And then they're using hormones on them. And then they're getting shots and vaccines and things like that. And so by the time that meat gets to your table, you just have a nice helping of a whole lot of toxins and stuff that's going to make your body sick. So this is the one area that it is very helpful, at the very least, if you can try to find nitrite and nitrite free. That means that's going to be how it's processed. Nitrite and nitrate is known to be a carcinogen in the body, and it's getting much more popular. So if you just bring a little awareness to this, you'll start seeing on a lot of your meat packaging that it'll say nitrite and nitrate free. Next thing, antibiotic free would be your next best step. We can get that out of the mix. That's going to be very helpful. Then all natural is going to be another step up. A lot of times they'll say, you know, that they haven't been adding antibiotics, they haven't been using hormones, they haven't been using these chemicals, so that's going to be good. Organic means that at that point, when they are being fed feed, that they're getting organic feed. So then we know that the feed that's coming into them is going to be a little bit cleaner. That's going to be another step up. And then last, your best bet is going to be your grass-fed or pasture-raised beef, because they're going to just be eating a true clean diet. They're not going to be having any of these toxins and chemicals coming into them. So just to put that into perspective a little bit, this little diagram over to the left here, they did a study. This was like a game changer for me. I was committed at this point. But they did a study that showed the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So omega-6s are typically what's going to make us a bit inflammatory. Omega-3s are kind of your anti-inflammatory, but we do need both in the body. So the goal is to kind of keep those in a ratio. So on a grass-fed meat, they showed that the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio was 2-to-1 or 4-to-1, which still was quite balanced, not too inflammatory at all. But in conventional meat, they showed it to be an 18-to-1. So you can see that the amount of inflammation causing potential that was in that drastically went up, which is definitely going to lead to some inflammation, toxicity, and agitation in the body. Same thing with your eggs. This is kind of a cool site if you want to check into it more, that rates all the different eggs. But the better quality you can get in those things, the more nutrition you're going to get, as well as the less toxic burden. And increase your water intake. One of water's wonderful functions is that it clears toxins from the body. It's going to help you feel full. So sometimes when people are craving snacks or craving treats or struggling, if you just drink a glass of water, it can actually help alleviate that. Ideally, you're goaling to drink half your body weight in ounces per day. Putting that in perspective a little bit, it takes about 2 to 4 cups to help your brain to function properly, as well as another 2 to 4 cups just to help your lungs function properly. So we're looking at 4 to 8 cups just for those 2 organs. So that kind of starts to help you see how when you're not getting enough water, how it's definitely reducing your body's ability to function optimally. And avoiding tap water. Tap water is going to be another massive culprit for getting toxins into the body. In our case, quite possibly arsenic, but who knows? And then we also are going to look at, give me 1 second. We got someone trying to come in with us. Natural spring water is going to be your best bet. But any sort of filtration. I mean, I don't care if you're using a Brita filter, what you're using. There's, like everything, there's lots of levels that this can hit at, but any filtration is going to be better than nothing when it comes to water and tap water. But then there's the unfortunate component that no one likes to know, that caffeine drinks like coffee, black or green tea, or soda all have a dehydrating effect. So if you're drinking some of those on a daily basis, then that's actually going to counteract your water intake. So you'll have to drink your water intake plus make up for whatever amount of coffee, tea, or soda that you drink. And so a lot of people don't realize that it's actually dehydrating. So they might be drinking 4 cups of water, but then they're also drinking 2 cups of soda, and at the end of the day they're basically not getting any water in. So something to just bring awareness to. When we look at decreasing your sugars, dietary guidelines suggest half of your calories come from carbs, which is crazy when we really look at this from a nutrition standpoint. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, that would roughly be 250 grams of carbohydrate. What they now are seeing is that the most often the average American on average is eating 500 grams a day. That's 189 grams of that is coming from sugar. So it took me a minute because I didn't really want to figure this out when I first started doing this, but it's about 6 to 7 grams is the equivalent of a teaspoon of sugar. And so when you start breaking that down, I looked at this again just to jog my memory, but that's about 47 teaspoons of sugar every single day. That's crazy amounts of sugar. So really, if we're wanting to manage our sugar, weight, and hormone control, we want to consume more like 150 grams per day. And if you're having some insulin resistance or sugar control issues, then we're actually trying to get under 100 grams to be able to manage that. So to kind of put that in perspective, I'm really could care less too much about what the label says as far as calories or carbs or all of that. My go-to is usually looking at what the ingredient list is. You start taking some awareness to that, it's insane. Like, it is getting to the point that it is challenging to find food that does not have sugar added to it. And we look back even 100 years ago, the average person consumed roughly 5 to 10 pounds of sugar a year. And now the average person is consuming an upwards of 65, even into the 100 range of pounds of sugar per year. Sugar, when we really get down to it, just straight up is a poison in the body. So this is one of our biggest culprits. So if we can reduce our sugars, that has a huge impact on helping support our body, removing that toxic burden, helping our body to have what it takes. Because basically what we're doing every time we bring these high amounts of sugar into the system is we're just suppressing the body's ability to function properly. So I love this visual just because I think it does a great job of just putting things in perspective. So this looks at the typical American diet, which I do not feel like is really too far off. So we've got some cereal for breakfast with orange juice, granola bar, Sobe drink, maybe a Subway sandwich, some Doritos, a soda, candy bar, getting a Gatorade. We have some spaghetti and garlic bread with a salad for dinner, and then we have end the day with some ice cream. And we look at that, and our carbs for the day clear up to 566. So taking note on the other slide, basically what they found through studies is that as soon as you get over the 150 carbohydrate range in a day, you're going to impact your hormones. And so that's where you'll definitely start seeing some adverse effects, is after that 150 grams of carbohydrates a day, because it will start to impact other areas of the body for sure. Here we've got 23.5 grams of fiber, and we've got 315.8 grams of sugar and 76.3 grams of protein. So that's quite a bit there. Now we just look at improving some of these things. Now, I don't feel like this is totally unrealistic for a lot of the people that we have on here today. We switch over our cereal for some eggs, maybe some bell pepper, a little omelet in the morning. We still get a piece of toast. We have some apple with peanut butter. We even eat some canned soup, so we don't have to make it. We have a salad with a balsamic vinaigrette or some kind. We have a healthier protein bar. We might have some chicken or fish or protein for dinner with vegetable, and then for dessert we might make ourselves some yogurt with some berries or something like that. And you can see how drastically making some of those changes can massively impact the body. Our carbohydrates drop down quite a huge amount. Our fiber has increased. Our sugar is way, way down. Our proteins have gone up. And you can see how quickly we could massively impact the body. And sometimes I think having this visual helps us see how just starting to make some of those adjustments really can start to have a substantial impact on how things adjust to the body. So one of the first things that I began doing when I was starting to improve my diet, just a little background so you don't think, I'm just coming to you with no idea of what it means to change your diet. I got on this path because I got super, super sick. And so before I got sick, I was like the queen of dollar menus and Totino's pizza and top ramen and meatballs, hot pockets, pastaroni. So, I get it. So what I first started doing when I was really trying to make that transition was I would just Google a healthier version of this. So one of my favorite things is beef stroganoff. Loved beef stroganoff. So I Google a healthier version of beef stroganoff, and then you'd be surprised. You'd see all these recipes that would show up that would cut out, a lot of the crap that I would put in it before. And that was how I first started making those improvements. And you can get a little bit more brave the more you Google. And when you do that, you'll see different versions. You'll see one that you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Another one that you're like, whoa, that's like a totally different recipe. But that was really, really helpful in creating those baby steps for me to begin moving in that healthier direction. And now, 8, 9 years later, I'm like a completely different person. So you guys can do this. When we look at grains, that's one of the first areas that's hard. You gotta start looking at dumping those a little bit more. The biggest reason for that is they're going to be highly processed and lacking nutrition. They're going to be associated with digestive issues and inflammatory conditions. Hold on one sec. It looks like we got someone that might not be muted. We'll just mute them real quick. There we go. And then genetically modified is a big thing. We don't even have time to get into all of that today, but the pesticide burden and the genetically modified component is a huge reason why you just want to start getting rid of those things. And then there's that tendency to overeat. So back to our toxins at the very beginning is when a lot of people really start looking at their diet, they're having cereal, they're having a sandwich, they're having pasta, they're having crackers. By the end of the day, they've had, 5 to 10 servings of the same grain all day long, multiple days a week. And it's just inevitable that your body's going to start to develop some issues with being exposed to the same grain so extensively over time. So it's really trying to look at creating some variety and trying to eliminate some of those high producing toxic and inflammatory grains. And then when we look at sweeteners, it is a process, and I know that, but there are ways to start alternatively sweetening. You can use stevia, you can use dates, bananas, raw or minimally processed honey, zip past that. But using all of those things can be helpful for really helping to start to create some new ideas and some new ways of being able to have those in the system. And be able to create treats. It's taken a while, but now I can create some pretty tasty treats that are pretty dang healthy and not really high in sugars. So it's just starting to transition. It's a process and working towards incorporating some of these things. Another one that you can use is like applesauce, but it's working towards decreasing and using some of those healthier sweeteners. And then decreasing processed foods. Says today more than 95% of all chronic disease is caused by food choice, toxic food ingredients, nutritional deficiencies, and lack of physical exercise. That's pretty much sums up why all of us are sick. So if we can start working on eating more of whole foods and less processed foods, is going to help a lot. Dumping the genetically modified, the unhealthy fats that we talked about. High fructose corn syrup is like straight poison. So it's one thing if something says it has sugar. If it has high fructose or corn syrup in it, just run. Drop it, go a different direction. You don't need it, because that's going to be really hard on your system. Again, the nitrates and nitrites, artificial colors and sweeteners are really, really hard on the brain. So this is where we're going to really see an impact on people that have a tendency to ADD, ADHD, really want to work on avoiding those artificial colors and sweeteners. And again, a reminder, if you can't eat it or can't read it, just don't eat it. When you're looking at that ingredient list, I challenge you moving forward from today to start looking at the ingredients more than the nutritional label. And if you can't read it, or if it has so many ingredients that you're like, what? Then make a different choice. When we look at helpful resources, we're going to talk more about these as this month goes on, but these have been some things throughout my journey that have really made a huge impact. Real Plans is awesome for creating meal plans for you. You can actually put in the food you like or don't like, and it'll create recipes based around that. So very, very cool resource. HelloFresh, for the times that you just don't have it in you to figure out food, they can throw together some pretty healthy food options for you and ship it straight to your door. No grocery shopping, nothing. So in my busiest times of life, that has been a fallback for me. Paprika, one of my good friends, she's actually on today's webinar, turned me on to this a few years back, and I still use it on the daily. It's this amazing app that you can go onto any website and it'll actually extract the recipe for you and save it in your own little recipe app book. So as you are Googling and finding these new healthier versions and figuring that out, it has your own little storage container for all those right there. Thrive Market, awesome little market online, great for this time of year with everything with COVID, can just get it shipped to your door. But what's really cool about Thrive Market is it's a vetted online market. So they take a lot of effort and pride in really making sure that the products that they carry are healthier products, are clean products, so that if you're new to trying to figure out some of these things, you can basically go on there and figure out and experiment with some new snacks and things to try and know that they're going to be a decent quality. And then Pinterest. Pinterest is awesome for finding new, fun, and healthy recipes. So definitely utilizing it for that. The last part of today's program, we're not going to spend a ton of time on, but is powerful purification options. So as we look again at the toxic burden and what's happening, really diet and lifestyle changes can have a huge impact, but it just doesn't even compare to what happens when you use some medicinal therapeutic supplementation to really cleanse and move everything through. So it's kind of like the equivalent of like if you're changing your oil, putting in new oil is going to be good, but it's not going to be the same as if you took the filter off, drained all the other stuff out, put a new filter on, and then put the new oil in. So that's what we're really trying to create when you do a purification or cleansing program. So the benefits of a purification program are going to be supporting the body's natural detoxification pathways, helps to maintain a consistent healthy weight, encourages healthier lifestyle habits, more energy, improved digestion, better sleep quality, decrease in aches and pains, hormone balancing, and there's going to be more than that, but those are your major ones. A lot of times people ask, how often should I cleanse? There's some people that are on today that have done some of these cleanses before. It is recommended to do a substantial body detoxification at least once per year if sustaining an overall healthy lifestyle. So just like your oil, your liver and things gets bogged down over time again. And this is amazing to me, truthfully. I am actually on day 20 today of the 21-day purification program, which is one of the options. And it's amazing to me every single time I do it, how much shifts and the differences and the things that change in my body, even with eating as clean as I do, that it just is a lot of awareness of some of those toxins. I can honestly tell you that I had one really, really rough day at the beginning of this cleanse, but then a lot of my toxic release has been emotional this cleanse, and it's been a little bit overwhelming, but I found it interesting because this last year has been very emotional year with a lot of these changes and changes in jobs and changes with kids and dealing with just being alive during this time. And so it was interesting for me to see how that came out as I was purifying. Then if you're consuming a higher concentration of processed foods or unhealthy things that are going to be a little harder in your system, then you may want to do some sort of cleansing or detox 2 or even 3 times per year. So it's just kind of looking at where you're at. The different options that we have that I regularly offer in clinic is a 10-day blood sugar program. It's going to be a combination of shakes and supplements. Really, this one gears to anyone that has any insulin resistance, pre-diabetic type issues, any sugar type issues, or even if you are diabetic, you can still use this to help start to balance things. Really, really powerful for any blood sugar handling type concerns. The next one is a 10-day inflammation program. It's going to gear more towards that aches, pains, fatigue, joint stiffness, all of those sorts of things. I really like the 10-day cleanses more for the person that just has never done this before. They're a little nervous about it, not sure if they can do it. Then the 10-day program is a great start to just kind of build up that confidence, see a change, see a difference. But really, hands down, my favorite one is this 21-day purification program. That's the one I've been on right now. Again, combination of shakes and supplements. Hands down, I feel like you get the best comprehensive results, but it does require the most discipline. You eliminate meats on days 1 through 10, but you can eat as many fruits and vegetables as you would like, just trying to keep more vegetables than fruits. But I love this one because it really promotes those long-term lifestyle changes rather than having so much of that bounce back effect. Also really allows your body a full 3 weeks to move through anything that's been in the system, which is awesome. And then the last one is the SP Detox Balance Program, which is shakes only. So this one's really ideal for the person that just can't handle taking supplements. If you can handle it, I definitely would go with the 21. If you can't handle supplements, then this one's a great program. It's probably the most feasible and the easiest one to do. The diet doesn't change a ton. It's just eating a whole food diet and taking in your shakes. And then it increases the toxic detox by increasing the amount of shakes that you're taking. So looking at all of this and coming all of it together, bringing all of it together, this year at the beginning of January, I started this 30-day yoga journey, and it's been the coolest experience. So as I was doing that and thinking about this presentation, I thought, man, I would love to set up a space for everyone here to really feel supported and stepping into a healthier lifestyle and living for this year and this upcoming month. So what I'm going to put together for everyone is we're going to call it our purification journey. So for the month of February, starting beginning February 1st through the 28th, oh man, Aubrey just wrote in that she's been doing the 30-day yoga journey too. It's seriously been so cool. So we're going to recreate something similar to that with our purification journey. So I'm going to be sending out daily encouragement and support, weekly webinar check-ins and community so we can hop on, share our experience, talk about some challenges that we're having or some ways to support healthy living, get some new creative and yummy recipes that I'll be sharing, but then hopefully we'll have some other people sharing what they've found and that works for them. And then if you'd like to do a purification program, we're going to do some discounts around that as well. I want to emphasize before going into the purification programs that the purification programs are phenomenal and can be life-changing. But if you are just not ready for that, I would love for you to participate in this purification journey anyways, as a way to just kind of help you, support you in getting on track. So with our purification program discounts, super excited this month till the end of February to offer 10% off all cleanse products through the end of February. So whether it's a full program, partial program, you can talk with me, we can see what's right for you, but any cleanse products will be 10% off. Then with any purchase of the 21 or 28-day purification programs, you will receive 2 free detoxing sauna sessions. Be sure to tell Now Cairo and Brian especially how awesome he is for helping us out with that. And then with any of the 10-day programs, you will receive one free detoxifying sauna session to really just support you guys and help you in making this feasible and able to do that with us this upcoming month. If you're not sure which program is right for you, please come in, schedule some time to sit down with me. If you're not comfortable coming in right now, we can schedule a phone call or a webinar, but we can talk through your toxicity questionnaire, what's happened with your health, how we can support you, and how we can adjust and help you to create, your own purification journey over this next month of February. So in review, gone over assessing your toxic burden. If you have any questions of that, please do not hesitate to reach out. What is considered a toxin, where toxins come from, and their impact on the body, practical lifestyle changes, purification program options, and then setting us up for success with our purification journey through February. So I want to thank you guys so very much for showing up today and participating. I'd love to have you join with us on our journey through February for healthy living. And please, if anyone has any questions or questions, I'll help with some answers. Then write in, and we can discuss that for any time that anyone wants to stay on. If you guys don't have any questions, then feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to participate in our February journey, and I look forward to seeing you in clinic soon. Any questions that anyone has?
I have questions.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Iris, and I haven't set up with you yet, but I'm very interested in having you as my nutritionist. I have some questions about the whole inflammation detox one. I've been retaining a lot of water, and I wanted to know more about that.
Absolutely. So Iris, just in the little communication we've talked, I think that it would be good to have you come in so that we can talk through this more. The inflammation one can be excellent for that, but when it comes to water retention, sometimes there's a couple different aspects of that can take place. And so it would be worthwhile to do a little bit more investigation between the two of us to figure out where that might be coming from. Sometimes it can be actually an adrenal component, that if there's, I know that you had mentioned that you've run some tests and some things have come up clear. But the things that we look at when there's water retention is if there is a toxic burden, so that very likely could be. If there's any heart or cardiovascular concerns, if there's any adrenal or stress response concerns, also if maybe your body doesn't have the right mineral balance and isn't processing those waters properly. So there's a few areas that could be impacting. In my experience, detoxification, if someone can handle it, is one of the best places to start, because at the beginning we talked a little bit about the various areas and avenues of symptoms, and it sounds like you're experiencing a few different symptoms. And so what can happen a lot that I found when I first began to practice is that when I tried to track or trace people's symptoms, we'd kind of go around in circles a little bit. And so what I've found now is that if you can start with doing a purification program, that what you'll start to realize is that anywhere from 40 to 60% of symptoms usually clear up within that purification time frame. Now, usually this one's with the 21-day program. The 10-day one can be an excellent start, but it doesn't seem to get quite as strong of an impact, but it definitely will give some relief. But then the other benefit is that once we clear that toxic burden, any symptoms that are still arising, it gives us a lot clearer picture of where would be the best place to start. Because once we have cleared all of the burden out, then whatever's left, we know those are the areas that need more work. And that's one of my favorite reasons for incorporating a purification program up front, is that it just helps me help you to not have to spend so much time going in circles, but to kind of drill down exactly where the body's having an issue. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Is there any way that we could set up an appointment for over the phone? I work at Xfinity and I'm always like my schedule's all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Um,
I know I have your information. So as soon as we're done with this webinar, I'll reach out to you and we'll get something set up. Okay, Iris?
okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, let's see. Read a couple of these questions. On day 12, 21-day cleanse. I'm loving it. My toxic score was a 60. I was wondering if you can do the cleanses back to back. So another great question. So with doing cleanses, I actually a lot of times have had patients do cleanses back to back. Usually I recommend giving a 3-week break in between cleanses because what they found so the 21-day cleanse particularly has been around for years and decades actually. And so there's been a couple people that have done some heavy testing around that 21-day purification program. And what they found is that the body will continue this reset process up to 3 weeks post cleanse. And so usually, even though you're on the cleanse itself for 3 weeks, your body is doing a full cleansing process for a 6-week period, which is also part of the reason that I just think that cleanse is so powerful. So usually if you do want to do some sort of back-to-back detoxing or cleansing, then I would recommend giving a 3-week pause in between. Also, it can be very beneficial to come in and sit down with me before starting that second program because although cleanses are phenomenal for a wide range of reasons, there may be something at that point that's showing up as a particular burden or symptom or issue that we could support therapeutically, maybe doing a couple other things. And so you absolutely can do that, but it can be beneficial if we're really trying to create a healing process to check in with me before doing that, just so that we can make sure that that's going to be the best and most optimal route for you to take. And any other question? Okay, thank you for this information. Can I see the spinal slide again? I was chasing. Yeah, let me go back to that spinal slide. Give me 1 second. So this has been really cool to get a little bit of perspective on. Anyone that's on here today too, I will make sure that you guys all get a copy of these slides so that you can revisit that. So one thing that has been fun working in Now Chiro as it relates to this specifically is that I'll have people do the purification program, but then I get to interact directly with the chiropractors there at Now Chiro. And I've had really cool experiences where the chiropractors will come in to me and say, man, you know, this patient is doing the 21-day cleanse and they've moved more than they've ever moved in the whole time they've been here. Or I was able to get this segment to adjust and it's never adjusted before when they've been coming here. And so that's really fun for me. I know that this thing, I know these things are true, but it's cool to see that in-office perspective of watching how much doing a cleanse and participating in supporting the internal aspect of the body can have such a profound effect on how well your structure maintains, how long it stays in place, what vertebrae are able to move, and what things are happening there. So absolutely, really, really cool aspect to look at. And I see this over and over again with patients that, again, if it's acute, it's usually not quite as common, but if anything is chronically going on in the spine specifically, it's a really, really good indicator that you want to look at some nutritional aspects of that. It's really excellent questions. Any other questions we have before we sign off of today's program? All right, everyone. Well, definitely, I'll be reaching out with a link to sign on to our purification journey. I hope that you guys will join us there. Please contact me if you have any questions about what purification program could be beneficial for you, or just wanting to check in with your health again. If you're a patient at Now Chiro and have never been in before, you get a free consultation with me as well. Would love to meet with you. Hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will talk with you soon. Thank you.